Wine time. There's no need. We're just drinking wine and we're friends.
Yes, friends drinking wine.
Friends drinking wine.
Feminism.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Considering its quality and size become a part of our everyday lives in the future.
Hi guys, so welcome to the first ever F-word video. I'm super excited and I'm here with the lovely Sarah and Annabel for the first video. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Every F-word video will start with establishing questions that I will ask everyone who gets to be on the show. So the first one, I guess, is what is your definition of feminism?
That's a really interesting question. The way that feminism is now and the way that I see it, righting the wrongs of the past and working out how to go forward into the future in a way where everyone of all genders, not just both genders, but all genders can feel comfortable to be themselves and to be the best person they can in every facet of society.
Cool. And do you consider yourself a feminist?
I do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What is your definition?
I think mine's probably a bit simple, and it's about the way that gender, sexuality, and sex affect the way that you live your life, and the way that society expects you to behave because of those things. And it's looking at that as I kind of look at it as that's weird, why is that? And then I use that to explain a whole lot of social things. And yes, I think of myself as feminist.
Beautiful. Why do you identify yourself as a feminist? And I think more specifically is why do you need feminism?
I think I've experienced enough sexism in my life, and I have talked to enough feminists and sort of thought about feminism enough to know that it's good for me. It helps me with every facet of my life, everything I do, from going to the supermarket, you know what I mean? Going to the supermarket to being on my couch drinking a glass of wine. You know, the most public thing to the most private thing, feminism helps everything.
And yourself?
Why am I a feminist? I need feminism because I think otherwise there would be so much that would be inexplicable. I think when you understand why you feel different to other people, and not because you're different, but what are the mechanisms that are working that make you feel different or less than, or you're to blame for your own sexual assaults, or those sorts of things. When you know why that is, then you can disconnect yourself from that and you can look at it from a slightly more objective point of view. And I think it helps me to navigate the world when I can look at a misogynistic article on Facebook and disconnect myself from that and don't feel as though the women they're talking about are me, and go, no, actually that's about a whole lot of things that you've learned without knowing that you've learned them. And so it actually helps me to be compassionate, and it helps me to be myself.
Cool. Well, that brings us on to the next question. How would you describe or define the patriarchy or misogyny? You talked about people learning things without realising that they're learning them. Is that part of it?
Yes, definitely. So the patriarchy, I think, has kind of come for me to mean more like a series of power structures. Essentially, it's a set of mechanisms and assumptions. So it's a thought of what women should be, and then it's a set of tools that create a society that makes women do that, or that tries to punish women who aren't. And it's also, at a foundational level, it's that the person who is assumed to be a person in law and in medicine and in our society is male, and then women are the other. They're the thing that
mankind.
Yeah, it's you know, men are the kind of default.
Yeah.
Like white people are the default.
Yeah.
Or straight people are the default.
Yeah.
And then if you're something else, then you're the kind of other one.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you an outsider status. Mm-hmm. And the patriarchy is what keeps it that way. Because otherwise it would just be gone in 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Because people would be like, I am a man and it matters. And everyone would be like, well, why? And then the person would be like, I don't know. And it would all just kind of go away.
Yeah.
But the patriarchy is what kind of holds that together. It's kind of that gravitational force that keeps atoms together. It's like the force that keeps all these guys be like, get back in the kitchen, make a sandwich.
Yeah. So the topic, I guess, that we're going to be discussing is essentially Feminism 101. So some basics, some historical context. We will just discuss like the brief history of feminism, which I think being, like we were talking before, being a feminist that I didn't Google feminism and then picked up a book and read it and goes, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like you use the word like self-taught feminist is how I identify myself. I found it quite interesting to look back and be like, there was like a start of this in a way type of thing.
There was a before.
There was a before this. Yeah. So I'll just like list off dot points and feel free to expand, discuss. So the first wave feminism was late 19th century, early 20th century, and which I guess is the one that people are most common to know about, which is the suffragettes and for the right to vote and have political kind of say and that sort of thing.
You should put Well Done Sister Suffragette from Mary Poppins in here.
Womankind arise, political equality and equal rights with men.
And one thing I found really interesting was one of the first kind of protests was 300 and more than one source said it was 300 men and women. So like right from the get-go, there were men as part of feminism as well.
What happened?
Yeah. Which,
they're still men.
They're still men, and that's what, like...
not that many, but they're still...
It seems more of a weird thing now, but, like, from the get-go it was there. And also a lot of them, it was more, like, middle-class, white men and women to start off with, which is,
definitely,
you know, very... of that historical time. Yeah, that's kind of what it was.
And can I just add to...
Yeah, sure.
One thing that's really interesting is... Actually, it's two things. Sorry, I'm going to do this. I studied feminism. Even before then, there's like the blue stockings in the 1600s. Do you know about them? And so they're lesbian separatists. So the whole idea is that they don't have men at all anywhere near them, and they sleep with each other. And like, it's I think probably partly where the myth of what a feminist is has come from, because that was so revolutionary. Like it just nobody had ever done it ever before, to say actually we don't want men at all, because it was the only way that they could have any power over their own lives was by saying no men at all. And so they were intellectuals. They were called the blue stockings because they wore blue stockings to identify themselves with each other. And they were highly educated women in the 1600s, which was also very rare, very upper class, because they had access to education. But yeah, so they were them, and then there were kind of bits and pieces like that, and then all of a sudden it became a wave, and that's why it's the first wave feminism. They're not the first feminists. They were and I think that's really interesting too, that there's kind of been feminism around always, and then something changed in that moment, and it became a movement. And like that's super interesting.
So that was the first wave. The second wave came around the 1960s, which I guess, you know, has the connotation of, you know, the burning bras and the hippie women and that sort of thing. Yep, exactly. So the second wave was more about the rights over their own body and contraception. So the pill came out and kind of women could choose, no, I don't want to have children at this point, or I want to have sex and not just to have children. Also, one thing I found really interesting was it was more of a sense of this like universal woman, like I am woman, hear me roar type of thing. Women connect with each other a lot more. There's this whole thing about ecofeminism, which I didn't know about, but because, you know, we have a cycle in ourselves like the moon, that once a month our vagina goes, time to bleed, that we're more connected with the earth and that sort of thing. So that was what that kind of movement was about. Oh, and this also introduced the African American women were a lot more involved in this, it was more worldwide, even like it kind of involved a bit more everyone as opposed to white middle class women.
Yeah. And there was also a really big movement where, so you had suffrage in the 1920s, and then there was another, in the 1960s and 70s, another big legal change where you had things like no-fault divorce and equal pay, and a whole lot of legislation that went through.
Yeah. Like, I know that my grandmother got divorced through a no-fault divorce, which was incredible for them. That they could actually get out of something that wasn't right for them, you know.
So then around mid-1990s is what I had the date for, but I found that, I don't know, I was surprised by that because I thought it was quite recent. I thought it was a lot more recent than what I thought it was. But you can disagree. But according to what I found out, mid-1990s is when the third wave kind of hit, which I found this quote which I quite enjoyed. You could wear a push-up bra and still have a brain. So it's kind of the women moving away.
All girls to the front. I'm not kidding. All boys, be cool for once in your lives. Go back.
Yeah, moving away from the sense of a universal womanhood type of thing and going, no, but I'm an individual person. And also taking a different type of claim over her body, going, yes, it's my body, but also if I want to go out with my boobs out, I totally can, and I'm going to rock it, and I'm going to wear lipstick, and I'm going to call my friends sluts in a nice loving way and call each other bitches in a nice loving way.
Exactly.
And a kind of a reclaiming one.
Yeah, totally.
Which I guess I kind of identify with a little bit more than the first two, you know, for obvious reasons. I was born in 92, so that would explain why. But what was most interesting is the fact that there was a lot of backlash within the feminist community towards this kind of third wave. Discuss.
The freedom that third wave feminists were afforded, that second wave feminists and first wave feminists weren't, I think would probably feel a bit like a spit in the face of going, well, now feminism's what we want it to be, and because they could wear push-up bras, and the only reason why they could is because the second wave feminists had done what they'd done. I think it's also about how comfortable we are with postmodernism. So, like this idea of reclamation and redefining and self-awareness. Like that's really new, and we don't feel like it's new because we've always lived with it.
It's interesting because it is very similar to how African Americans have reclaimed like the N-word and black culture and like culture appropriation. How the white culture in America is trying to be like the black culture. Which,
all the good parts of black culture.
Exactly. Like
you're taking all the good parts, but you don't get to. You can still walk down the street at night time.
You have the privilege and the funkiness. I guess.
Exactly.
That's right.
Which I think relates to the third wave is that you're reclaiming it as your own, and you're taking kind of the good bits and going, that's the bits that I want, and it may very well seem that you've forgotten about the other bits or that sort of thing.
That's right, and I think the reason why they could forget about it is because the second wave feminists actually did do a really fucking good job. I think there are things that we still need to work on, but the other thing is I think that feminism now, it does have to be postmodern, because we don't have movements anymore the way that we used to.
Do you think
power doesn't exist?
You know, a fourth wave of feminism is coming or has come?
I think it's coming. I think that rage that women had in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, I think that's coming back. I think people are starting to stop being like, oh, well, you know, like a little bit of fun, just girls to the front, you can deal with it, boys. And now we're starting to be like, no, actually, girls to the front, actually, fuck off. Like, women are dying, and it's not okay. Like, I think people are starting to get really furious about a whole lot of things. I can feel it. Like, my voice cracked. Like, I think we're getting really angry about a lot of things, and I think feminism is one of them.
Cool, thanks. Well, we've had much wine and much discussion. Thank you guys so much for breaking my F-word seal. And awesome. So I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye.